Hey guys, greetings from Midtown Manhattan. Sorry, I've had to come all the way up from Lower Manhattan. I think it's called East Side. I had a really lovely dinner with Stephanie, not Stephanie from Connecticut, Stephanie L, I guess, from around here, and Chris. It was really good dinner. Anyway, I'm here. Sorry about being late, but it was. I was actually aware of the time, but it was one of those dinners where you just wanted to, keep on talking, and it was just a very enjoyable conversation. And so, yeah, sorry to keep you guys waiting. Penny says, I think I will go to sleep. Well, thanks a lot for some of you who've, managed to stick it out. Let's get going. Gwen, Lainey, Angela, good to see all of you. Right. So what we're going to talk about in this live, and it's not going to be as long as last night's, because we really just want to talk about Mallory Beach. But I've got to say, even though we're going to talk about this, I really felt like I had an epiphany, where just my understanding of the Murdaugh case has sort of broadened and widened and deepened. And I can kind of kick myself for why this didn't happen earlier, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Zircon said last night was a marathon. Thanks a lot, Sharon. Okay, so this was sort of how my day started. The day where I went to the Arches Bridge. I think it's the bridge that connects Paris Island. It's near Beaufort. I'll show you a map of that in a moment. But this is how my day started, and it was also the day that I was going to be meeting Laurie and her partner, and I kind of needed to get stuff done before I met them, and so that was the precursor to all of this. So I actually took a wrong turn by mistake. I ended up in Savannah. I'm kind of glad I did, because it was worth going to, and I ended up purposefully going to Savannah the very next day. Look at these beautiful trees. This is just some of what you see. I don't know if you guys know that Savannah is the first city in America, first town that was planned, where the urban aspect of it was planned. To be honest, I find that quite hard to believe, because what about New York? But there you go. Not quite sure what that is. But that just gives you an idea of Savannah. I would later come back to take footage of the what's the word, of the bench where the Forrest Gump scene was taken. But this is a big part of South Carolina. It is bridges, it is rivers, it is flat, it's forest, and all that kind of thing. It certainly is scenic. And so now we are headed towards Beaufort. And do any of you guys know the significance of Beaufort in the Mallory Beach incident? So this was actually the sign. I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking to you guys yesterday about, got out of the vehicle and I was walking down a very busy road, and I was walking on very uneven terrain, and I sort of wanted to walk kind of in harm's way, because the terrain was so tiring to walk on. Well, this is the sign. So to walk quite a long way back just to take a photograph of this sign, right? And I don't know if you can see in the background, can you see a sort of sloping grass, sloping down? And you don't really want to walk, and you can't really walk in this area. But this was actually a very, very busy stretch. That gives you a little bit of a better idea how long the grass was. And there's a little section there that I wanted to walk on with my back to the traffic, because walking on this slanting uneven road. Just wasn't, it was quite tiring. And it really gave me an insight, and this is not the epiphany in terms of the Mallory Beach thing, but it's something that made me really think about the Stephen Smith thing, that I kept wanting to walk on the strip, even though it was dangerous. I kept wanting to go back to it, even though I could see the cars, even though I couldn't see the cars, even though I could hear the cars, even though I couldn't hear the cars. I wanted to walk on this little strip here. Didn't Stephen Smith feel the same way? And so now we're going to go beyond Beaufort to where this sort of bridge area is. Again, this is just the sort of sights and sounds you have in South Carolina. Lots of open water, bridges all over the place. You can see it was quite a beautiful day. I don't know why, but it's cold, gray, and rainy in New York right now. So that is actually the bridge in the distance, right? Let's just play that again. The bridge that where Mallory Beach died is up ahead there in the distance. So can you see, you're dealing with quite a tidal area. There are times when the marsh is almost looks like a green field, and then there are other times when it is completely covered in water, when the tide comes back in. So it's kind of variable. And we're going to come back to the significance of that. So they are parked right beside the bridge. Right, I'm going to play that again. It's Arches Creek Bridge. And I parked right beside it. And I want to ask you guys right at this point, if you are me and you want to now kind of investigate this area, you want to just go and take a closer look and take some photos and just get a sense of what happened here and what's going on here. Where do you go from here? And this is where you've got to have some knowledge already of the case, and you've got to have, spend some time looking at the footage. So where do you go from here? Do you go to the right side of the bridge or the left side? What would you do? So as this says, down under the bridge. Okay, but which side? I parked on the right-hand side. Should I just walk straight on ahead? Or what should I do? Zircon says left. Sally says Pawpaw was so out of control. Even if they had made it back and loaded up the boat, they still had to drive back to the cars. Is Zircon right? Do I need to go left here or what? As this says the right side. Fariba says the left side. Mary says go below the bridge to the water. Okay, but which side? Which side of the bridge must I go to? Sharon says I'm clueless. Janine says I'm directionally challenged. But can you see how when you are faced with the actual bridge, you need to have some insight into what to do there. Which side do you go? Do you go this side or that side? Is it actually on the other side of the bridge? And is it this side or that side? Where do you need to start? What do you need to be doing? Chelsea says no clue. Erica says no idea. So I've got to acknowledge that at that moment, I actually felt exactly the same. I was like, wow, I'm looking at this bridge and I don't really get a clear sense of where I need to be or whatever. And so I actually started walking down the right-hand side. I mean, my vehicle's parked on the right-hand side. So I started walking down the right-hand side. And I very quickly noticed or realized that there was no way I was going to get to any, because there was just marsh and there was brush and there was no path and there's no road. And I very quickly realized this is not going to work. And then on my way back, I was just thinking, what do I remember from the footage? And this is where I want to ask you. Can you remember seeing photos of the boat and the bridge? The boat and the bridge. Can you remember what was on which side? Was the boat in the photos that you saw? Was the boat on the left side of the bridge or was the boat on the right side of the bridge? Where was the bridge? Where was the boat? Can you guys remember? So let me put that in chat. In terms of footage, where was the boat relative to the bridge? So, right, so the bridge is somewhere. It was the boat on the left side of the bridge or the right side of the bridge? Sharon says the boat was on the right side. Bridget says boat was on the left in the footage that I saw. Melstiller says left. Thought Criminal says right. Catherine says left, I think. Chelsea says I'm guessing right. So can you see how half of you are almost saying this side and the other half are saying that side? The answer is the left side. It's this side. Right? There's the left side. Can you see the bridge is on the right and the boat is on the left, right? The bridge is on the right hand side of the boat and the boat is on the left hand side of the bridge. So that's kind of what we need to, we'll just want to go and check that area. Let's just do that. Not quite sure why this is so hard to see. Maybe if I just do it like that. So I want you to take a quick look at this image, and then we're going to come back to it later on and see if we're in the right place. Do you notice anything in this image? What should you be looking out for? And anyway, we're going to come back to this image. So that's where I parked the vehicle. This was on my way back, realizing it's not the right spot. It's not the right place. Stephanie, good to see you back there. Okay. Janine says the boat seems unimpressive for Murdaugh money. Gloria says left side of the bridge. Well, we have looked at it. Okay. Well, I didn't need to look at the photo. I was thinking of this photo. Is it this one? I was thinking of this photo, and I was able to remember. Yeah, it was definitely on the left-hand side. That is kind of the classic photo, right? So let's continue. So I parked over here, and then I realized this is not, it's not even going to work if I do go down this side. So I crossed the road, right? Went across the road to this side, and you can see there's a slight road going down there anyway. And I presume that this is the area where in the body cam footage you saw the ambulance parked. I presume, I don't know it for a fact, but there's quite a flat area for the vehicles and where you saw the one dude, I can't remember what was his name, the one dude that was sort of crying and swearing at Paul. I think that was also sort of shot in this area. And so if you come onto this side, yeah, it doesn't say Arches Bridge, it says RC Berkeley Bridge. And you see there's kind of a road going this way, right? And if you walk along the road, there's actually a car parked right on the end of it. Kind of a Mercedes. It looks a little like the Mercedes Scott Peterson used just before he was captured. And so you come around here. Let's see if you can see it in this picture. But there are actually some flowers lying over here. I'm not sure if you can see it here. And so do you recognize these pylons? Are these pylons, is this the right bridge, first of all? Are these pylons the right sort of pylons? Are they sort of rounded pylons? Well, let's look at that again. Are these pylons sort of rounded? Well, much that they don't look terribly round over here. These look almost like rectangular, don't they? So are we at the wrong bridge? Well, can you see that those are also rectangular? Can you see on that side, they are rectangular. On this side, they are sort of circular. Can you also see that there are girders up here that are of a particular shape and color? Let's go back to the image. Do we have the right girders? Then the next thing we kind of want to look out for is this sort of strange substrate here. Are we going to see a similar substrate? I mean, it's obviously quite clear we are at the right bridge, but just to be sure, we've now confirmed that that is the same. And the other thing we can look at is this substrate here, and then also the silhouette of the land sort of over there. Are they going to be a match? So let's have a look. Do we have that same kind of substrate here? And if not, is the incident actually on this side or something like that? So let's have a look. So it was a little tricky getting to this spot. A little tricky, not really complicated. And that's just a view from as you're about to make your way to the bridge. You can see there is quite a lot of water, even though it looks like it's just land everywhere. There's quite a lot of water. Is that silhouette of the land over there? Is that a matching silhouette to that? Is that little thing going up and down, and then that is that a matching silhouette? What do you guys think? Have a look at that. And that, is that the same? Rich Buddy says they crashed into that bridge there. That's correct. And so we are actually at the right bridge. We are on the right side of the bridge, which is the left side. And so we are now going to take a closer look. And you see how all of this is kind of a test of a few things. Critical thinking, your sense of direction, your memory of the case, and it's kind of testing a lot of your brain and your mind and your memory at the same time. You're kind of getting a sense of orientation. You're being oriented, right? Now, the one thing that we sort of still missing from that image, the one thing we still really want to see is this. This is pretty idiosyncratic. There are a couple of rocks lying around, and so we just want to just to be sure, we want to look for this sort of thing. Let's see if we can find it. And what is that over there in the corner? Do you see that? So what you obviously see in this image is the water level here is much lower in this image. There's a fisherman down there at the bottom, right? But there's rocks here, and then there's some debris here, and you've got to come all the way to the top to this column over here, and that's where you get this strange artificial foam, and that is what we're dealing with right here. And so when this boat was retrieved, the water level was much higher. It seems to have been much higher. Okay, does that make sense? There's another better example of that sort of foamy or I don't know, whatever it is, substrate. So that is a look just straight through the undercarriage, essentially, of this bridge. And this is now going onto the wrong side. This is not the side that the boat was retrieved from. But the question then is, what happened on this side of the bridge? What is relevant in terms of the Old Mallory Beach incident? Why is this side of the bridge relevant? Paige says, did you talk to the fisherman? Yes, I did. That's also a really good point, is you would really want to come here at night. You would really want to look at this at night, and bear in mind, there's not really an awful lot of street lighting, so it wouldn't be particularly well lit. And so there's your answer. Mallory went that way, right? Mallory went that way. So let me ask you a very simple question. On what side of the bridge would you say, in other words, on the left side, which is this side, that's where the boat accident happened, right? The left side. Was it on this side of the bridge, or was it on that side of the bridge that Mallory would have sort of emerged and floated somewhere? And in other words, the question becomes, where is the sea? Where's the coastline? Is the coastline on the right of the bridge from the way we're looking at it, or on the left of the bridge? And that's going to give you an idea of from which direction the tides are coming in and going out. What do you think the answer is? Fariba says, is there an opening to pass? Paige says the body was thrown that way after the boat hit the ground. Lainey Bob says her body washed down that way. That's right, Sharon. The river flows to the right. So the sea is towards the right, but the river can also flow to the left when the tide's coming in. And so the question becomes, what direction was the river flowing when the accident happened? Rich Buddy says that bridge does not look passable. So let's take another look at this bridge. Take another look. You think there's enough? Look at the size of this guy, and look at the space between these pylons. Is there enough space for a boat to get through? Is there enough space, let's say, between these two for a boat to get through? What do you think? There you have it. Yes, if it's going slow, and yes, it does look quite tight. It is quite narrow, but if you were going slowly and sort of carefully, you would be able to find your way through. And you really get a sense sort of here that there is sufficient space. There is sufficient space sort of there, for example, right? The other thing that is a little bit confusing here is do you think that the boat was traveling in this direction? In other words, do you think the boat ended up on land, or did the boat was the boat traveling perpendicular towards the bridge when this happened, and the side of it struck? In other words, was the boat traveling towards land, or was the boat traveling towards the bridge? What do you think is the answer? In other words, did the boat hit the bridge on the side of it, and then it sort of came towards land? It sort of just floated towards land, or did the boat hit the bridge and then it actually had to be the boat had to be retrieved because it was nowhere near the land? Yeah, he was going way too fast. Yeah, so he was going towards the bridge, and there is some footage apparently that shows that. Okay, but that's just an important thing to be clear about. Okay, so let's. So this was a little kind of a little memorial I found there. Some flowers that had just been put down to remember Mallory, and it was quite strange because I'd been to the Delphi park, and there was virtually nothing there. It was just in a way, wow, okay, so someone has actually acknowledged her, and it was sort of quite good to see. But that was all that there was there. So before we kind of go into too much detail, I just want to explain how I understand that this accident happened. I'm talking about, obviously, Paul was boating too fast, but what apparently happened was the boat basically hit one of these pylons, not not completely head on, but mostly head on, right? It's kind of like the boat hitting an object that was in front of it, and the boat then suddenly did stop. And you can imagine when you look at this image here that in order to create a rip like this, the boat basically would have gone like that and then probably turned slightly as well. So it didn't just stop like that. It probably went like that and then slightly like that, if that makes sense. Because it's mostly on the side of the boat, but it was nevertheless a frontal impact. That makes sense. So it's a frontal impact, but nevertheless creating some sort of sideways shift, right? The bottom line is what actually happened when the boat hit the bridge was that the back end of the boat basically flipped like that. The front was stopped or slowed. The front decelerated extremely quickly, and that caused the back of the boat to sort of flip like that. And where was Mallory sitting? Well, Mallory was sitting right at the back, and she then went airborne. She was thrown right out of the boat, and she went straight into the bridge. So she kind of went vertically in the air, and she actually hit the bridge and then fell into the water. That's kind of the mechanism of what happened here. So if we go back to these images, if you imagine something like that taking place here, right? And bear in mind the water level would have been quite a bit higher, maybe around about that level. Then Mallory may have hit one of these beams or even into the roof of this bridge. And I did sort of try and see if I could see damage to these pylons. I don't know if that's any kind of deformation there, you know, that sort of indentation there, but I can't say for sure if I saw exactly where this happened. You would imagine, given it's the left side of the boat, that it might be the left side of one of these pylons, not that side of it. Anyway. So Laney says, did it hit a circular pylon as opposed to the rectangular pylon? I don't know, but I would say yes, because the rectangular pylons are right on the side. I mean, this rectangular pylon's right over here, so I really don't think so. Do boats have computer systems on board, like cars, that tell us the speed and impact? Some do, I guess, but I don't think this boat did. I don't think this boat had that. I don't know. I can't say either way, but from the damage here, you can tell that it was substantially moving at a substantial speed. And then there were also several witnesses who said how fast they were going, and it was making them uncomfortable. It's Terry here. Welcome, Terry. Okay, so do you guys at least understand the mechanics of the accident? That it was kind of like a head-on collision, but not technically. It wasn't a straight head-on collision. It was kind of a head-side collision, and that led to anyone who's sitting on the very back end of the boat would become kind of airborne. And where was Paul? Paul was sort of midway through the boat, and there were other people who were sitting closer to the front, the very front of the boat. They would sort of still be okay. I can't remember who it was. One of them had a really serious injury to her hand. It was almost as though she was holding on, and you can imagine holding on to the railing when this boat hit the. Look how that whole section has been deformed and kind of removed over there. Can you see that? But someone was actually holding on to the railing. I'm not sure if it's this railing or if it's sort of the side of the boat. When the boat kind of hit the side, and the hand is really, really badly injured. Yeah, Connor's jaw was also injured pretty bad. Yeah, but the fact is that she was tossed vertically. That is something that they said. I mean, it's a fact. It's not maybe. It definitely happened. Okay, so I want to just go on a little bit further. Just a view from those flowers. Stephanie says his jaw was dislocated on both sides. He actually seemed to have bitten through his his lip or something. It really was quite an awful injury. Okay. So this is now going back from the bridge, going back to my vehicle, and then going over the bridge again, and then parking on the other side. I took a few photos over here. And then and now I was going to go over the bridge, but on top of the bridge, and just look at the view from the top. It was pretty hot. So I don't know if you can see, but the water is actually flowing from left to right. It's sort of flowing from inland, even though the tide's very low, the water is actually still flowing towards the sea. Can you see that? It's flowing left to right. Now, I'm not quite sure what the significance of these posts are. I don't know if these posts are to say to boats, this is the section you need to go through. I don't really know whether that's the point of it, but I suspect that that might be the case. I'm talking about these two posts over here. Are these two posts sort of guiding posts for boats to say, this is your trajectory? Have another look at those posts in the water. There don't seem to be any lights on them. I don't think those are lights. So I do wonder whether these are kind of guiding beacons to say, choose this route through here. And I wonder whether Paul wasn't thrown off by them, because you don't normally have this sort of thing in front of a bridge already. One wonders whether that caused something to happen or whether it prevented something from happening. So let me ask you guys a question. Is there CCTV footage of the boat incident? Brianna says, I visited the crash of the late Princess Diana, chilling, only one survivor. Interesting. Laney Bob says, no, there's no CCTV. You guys agree? What was there any CCTV on this bridge? Zircon says CCTV at the bar, and actually Laurie and myself and somebody else, we all actually walked the exact same route that Paul and his companions walked right up to where they go down that sort of railing. So there you have it. Well done, Sharon. There was CCTV on the dock. Oh, sorry. Yeah, well, there was CCTV on the dock, but there was actually CCTV on the bridge as well. I'm going to show that to you in a moment. Where is the CCTV on the bridge? Where do you think it is? But can you see if you look down here, although this is showing you to go between these two areas, well, there's a big concrete pillar right over there. It's between these two, saying, well, let's aim for between here. For example, at night, well, there's a big concrete pillar right there. So it is quite a tricky bridge to go through. Even if you were sober, I think that would be quite a tricky bridge to go through. So Gloria says, is it under the bridge? No, it's not. Is it up on the road? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Not quite sure what you mean by that. So there again, you get quite a good idea that it is wide enough. The bridge is wide. You can't say that it's impossible to get a boat through there, and you wouldn't be able to get a boat through there. That is more than wide enough to allow a boat through, but it is technically a little bit more complicated than most bridges, or than a lot of bridges. This is a bridge with a lot of pylons along the bottom. Do you agree with that? You have some bridges that have got very few of those struts. This one has got a lot, and they kind of at a strange angle. A lot of bridges with those struts, they're vertical struts. These are to some extent to one side. Janine says, I didn't think they had any footage. They had to do a reenactment. Okay, so that's the view from above. Can you see again, there's quite a lot of space. And again, is that a gouge mark from perhaps being hit by a boat? I don't think it's the right side of it somehow. So it's possible. But it is an interesting question. If the boat hit the bridge, where did it hit the bridge? Which pillar? And I can't tell you the answer to that. So there's your CCTV. It's on top of the bridge on a tall tower. Um, I don't know for a fact whether this was in place at the time. I really can't say, but in the documentaries I saw, they seem to show original footage of the boat approaching the bridge. And if that footage is authentic, then it probably came from this camera. There's also these two cameras here, but I just don't think that these cameras um, would really be able to show you very much. Because first of all, there's a tree in the way. That one's directed away, and that one, I don't know if it's really directed in the right direction. So I think if there's any camera that could see anything, it may have been one of these. So there's another view of the camera, and as you can see, there's actually also, I think there's also a camera here. Not 100% sure what that is, but that could potentially give an even better view in that direction than what that could give because the tree is in the way. So I have an idea that if that CCTV footage that I thought I saw, I think it may have come from that. That's just a guess. Is there anyone who's seen the black and white CCTV footage I'm talking about? Let's see if I can put it up. Mallory B. Yeah, so if I just look at you do a Google search, this is sort of what comes up. Um, we've all seen that CCTV and that CCTV. Um, yeah, so it's not quite what we're looking for. I'm talking about CCTV of the boat actually hitting the bridge. Not sure if that is a dramatization. Zircon says I saw it and I thought it was dramatized. So this is some of the final footage of Mallory. Um, and that's, I guess, when the boat, can you see over there? They seem to be using a light. And there they go off. There they go. ~1 in the morning. Sarah says just joining after work. Greetings. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to. So that's just something that I'm not 100% sure about. I remember seeing black and white footage. It even sort of kind of makes the sound of a bump. I don't think they would dramatize that to look like it's from CCTV if they didn't have CCTV, to be honest. Okay, and so I think we're going to Beaufort from here. And of course, Beaufort is sort of the area, just a general area where Paul bought alcohol and I guess he fueled the boat and all that sort of thing. And does anyone know where they intended to sleep that night? See how well you guys know this case. Do you guys know where the plan was that they were going to sleep that night? Okay, so um, Zircon says they were going to stay in town somewhere. That's not right. They did originally go to an oyster roast. That's true. Uh, they all plan on going to their own homes. That's not how I understand it. Didn't they rent something? No. So as I understood it, they were going to actually stay at their grandfather's sort of beach house. I think I'm not sure if they called it Murdaugh Island, but it was the grandfather's beach house that they were going to stay. Let's see if I can. Yeah, so I think that is the thing. No, not Moselle Cottage. I just want to see if I can find um, it. So far, no. I know exactly what it looks like. I just can't quite find it. What's his name? Handsome. Yeah, I can't find it here. Anyway, I wish I could show you, but I don't quite have it here. Right, so let's just go on to something else. So does that look familiar? So Erica says the river house. Tracy says, I've never heard of this. Okay. The oyster roast, was the first stop. Then they did another stop at Luther's Grill, right? And quite a few of them didn't want to actually do that stop, but Paul did, and he went inside. Not everyone went inside. Um, yeah, this is the dock in the daylight. And do you recognize the pattern on the ground? Do you recognize the sort of pylons on the right-hand side? Do you recognize the sort of park swings on the left? You see the swings on the left-hand side? Can you see over there is that little jetty where the boats were sort of, and so Luther's is actually on the left-hand side, yeah. So there's Luther's. Actually had a very good, enjoyable lunch with Laurie and her companion. Really enjoyable. I don't know if Laurie's watching, but it was really nice. Not only conversation, but just a nice atmosphere. Um, and so, do you guys want to see what it looks like inside? Paul and Connor went inside, and they were drinking. So only two of the six went inside. The rest stayed outside, and we're just waiting for them to sort of finish up. Quite a nice pub, right? This guy who's coming out here was just telling me that he was taking care of a cat that was on the outside there. And so does that look familiar? Because that is when you walk directly to the is it the quay side, the I guess the marina. If you walk directly from Luther's, then you end up on this um what's the boardwalk, is that the word? And then you would turn left and walk down this way, right? And we're going to see that where the CCTV camera is, and we're also going to see the swings that Anthony and Mallory were sort of using while they were there. The bridge in the distance is a totally different bridge. It takes you to Take you somewhere else. So there's can you see the swing on the side there? Well, there's more than one. That's where Anthony and Mallory were sort of hanging out. And then in the foreground, that's where they sort of turned in. And then the boat was sort of somewhere over there. Right. So Sarah says, so you have the video of them walking that night. Well, shall I play that again? It's this video here. Um, Not quite sure why it's doing this. Sorry about this. Let's wait for the ad to finish. You guys having a good night? Having a good Friday night? But there we are. Does that look familiar? Those swings are sort of just out of sight. You notice the pattern of the boardwalk and the concrete pylons on the side. So there they turn and they walk onto that section there. And then they turn again and they go down, right? Did I say Friday night? Okay, so that's where we are. Can you see it's the same spot? And there is the CCTV. Quite a lot of cameras in that one little spot. There you can see how it's oriented right there. So when you going in to investigate a scene, you also want to remember what is out there, what infrastructure do they have that they recorded, and that's also going to help you orient yourself, right? So there's kind of the view from the CCTV perspective, and isn't that the view that you've just seen? Slightly back this way. Isn't that the view we've just seen? Okay. So this was just a moment where people were arriving and they actually had a boat, a dog that was just sort of like really enjoying the boat ride, and he was sort of sitting there, and it kind of added a little element of humor to the reason that we were there and what we were talking about, thinking about. It was just something that was quite interesting. This 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 dog that was really enjoyed being a sailor. Good night, Gwen. Thanks for joining us. Me's and Moms has been looking forward to this. You've covered a lot of territory. Great work. Thanks a lot. And this is just something I'm going to get to. We're on the hour mark now. I'm going to get to my little insights that I want to share with you. So this is just arriving with that dog, and I don't think I really got the dog coming in, but anyway, that's it. That's the view from that point. Okay, so I'm now going to share with you just a couple of things that I've scripted. I haven't even posted this on Patreon. So I could honestly kick myself for not putting two and two together while I was in South Carolina. Sometimes things are so obvious and so self-evident that we actually fail to see the significance. Let me say that again. Sometimes things are so obvious that we don't actually realize that they are kind of what they are. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So I don't think it's any mystery that the unraveling of the Murdaugh dynasty was kick-started by the boating incident, right? And I don't think it's a mystery, and I don't think it's a mystery to you guys, right? That the boating incident got that ball rolling. That was going to lead to the unraveling of the whole Murdaugh mess, right? And that sort of happened on the 24th of February 2019. And I can really take you through a lot of the financial things that were taking place, loans, mortgages, when Moselle was bought, for how much, how the mortgage was dealt with, 2018, 2020, and so on. But I don't really want to let those details get in the way of just the basic thing that I want to communicate. So as you're very likely well aware, because it's been covered in countless documentaries and this channel, the value of the boat incident is that it provides a demonstration for how the Murdaughs tried to contain the situation. The boat incident is a situation where a Murdaugh is in trouble. A Murdaugh is in a predicament. A Murdaugh has done something wrong, is in a conundrum. And how do the Murdaughs deal with a situation where they are in trouble, essentially, right? And so it's demonstrating how they respond to that situation. Does one person respond? Are they sort of dragging their heels and they don't really want to get involved? Do they work together? Do other people work with them? It's basically just a demonstration of that, right? Another way of saying that is it's what the covering up. It's a demonstration of how the covering up takes place, and how the legal levers and leverages actually work in a practical sense. And what kind of astonished me was it's not really a lot more complicated than, will you say that? So in other words, it's semantic cover-up. Connor, will you say that you were driving the boat? Okay, well then Paul's off the hook. Connor, will you say that I don't know who is driving the boat? You know what I'm getting at? And so just by changing what someone is saying, you can change legal outcomes. Just by changing words, you can change fortunes in a sense, right? And none of this is new to you guys, and none of it's like, whoa, wow, that's really incredible. But it's important just to sort of reiterate that that's just the one dimension of the thing, right? That's the one dimension. So the Murdaughs are in trouble. They've got this legal clout. This is how they use it. Do they use it? Yes. How do they use it? Well, they talk to one of the witnesses and they say X, Y, and Z. And so there you've got that demonstration, right? And there's more to say, but you kind of get what I'm getting at. And then this is the big insight that really, I don't know, for me was like quite a big moment. I was like, The other side of that whole dimension is we are dealing with a family who have made their name and made their fortune and become this incredible powerhouse as a result of personal injury. Let me say that again. The Murdaughs have gotten to this point in the history of their family, in terms of their whole evolution and growth and their journey. They've gotten to it because of their association with personal injury law. And here they are bearing the brunt of that same thing. Because here, one of their own has done something, had an accident. So guess where they are? They are in the epicenter of where, when there are injuries like this or accidents like this, you're going to get your butt handed to you in a lawsuit, right? Hazel Eye says, "Isn't it Saturday night?" Yes, it is Saturday night. So I've had some alcohol. It's your fault, Chris, for that extra bit of the drink. Don says, "This is my vote." Okay. Wendy says, "It's crazy to think of it this way, Nick." So I don't know. Do I need to say that again just to kind of like, are you getting that weird like sense that, wow, this is actually crazy? Are you getting that sense? Let's just have a look at what you guys have said. What is the key insight or idiosyncrasy in the Murdaugh case? It's in a southern setting, 8%. Murdaugh is a lawyer, 22%. It's about greed. That is a big insight. But the epiphany that I had, and I think it really confirms my original suspicion that this is about greed. And if you think about, isn't personal injury law about greed as well? It's a get rich quick thing that the law actually supports, right? And so all of these personal injury lawyers, aren't they kind of greedy lawyers? Aren't they sort of, you know what I'm getting at? And so I don't know. It is about greed, yes, but this is actually about what is idiosyncratic to the Murdaugh case is personal injury law. Do you see that? That it's not just, oh, personal injury law, blah, blah, blah. No, personal injury law is central to the sort of mythos of this case. Are you getting a sense of that? And what I'm trying to get at is you've got a personal injury lawyer on the scene, and his father is also a personal injury lawyer in terms of his experience and so on. He's also there, right? And these personal injury lawyers and their whole family have got a legacy with it, and they work in a kind of a personal injury law firm. It's one of the things that they do. And they are there to deal with the fact that their own family member has just screwed up royally. And they can see, they can smell that they've got a huge personal injury shitstorm coming their way. And they know that they are big shots in the South. And they know that they've got a big target on them because they're worth a lot of money. And they know that there are at least 5 people that could sue them. And I mean, one person has also died. So they are literally facing a shitstorm of financial damage if they don't contain the situation. And it's not just, well, if I was in Utah and this happened, it would be a problem. Or if I was in California. No, no, no. If you're in South Carolina and this happens, you are really you're really in the dwang. You're really in serious trouble. And nobody could appreciate that more than a personal injury lawyer. No one could appreciate that more than to say, we've taken situations like this and we've got millions out of people. The housekeeper fell on my steps. Wow, I got 4 million out of that. This person did that. I got so many million out of that. Well, yes, someone with a boating accident, somebody died. Do I want to have to give up millions because my son? No. Is there a way that I can control the situation? So are you getting kind of a really strong sense that the personal injury aspect, which the Murdaughs were always steering and they were capitalizing on, now suddenly it was an inversion of that. Now suddenly it was, you are going to face a serious financial shitstorm. Uh, you better batten down the hatches, right? Do you remember? Did you are you getting that sense of that, or did you know that all along? Have you appreciated how fundamental this is, or are you saying, no, well, I knew that all along, I'm from the South? Paige says, correct me if I'm wrong, the Beach family received large insurance. Um, well, as far as I know, quite a few people have received money. As far as I know, I think everyone on that boat got some money out of it. Everybody, um, other than Paul, right? So there were five people on the boat, and everyone got allocated something, right? So let me continue. Um, so that's the first thing that was like, whoa, this is actually incredible. And I can't believe I haven't thought of it in such simple terms before. The other thing that I thought was quite incredible was, if you think about the Murdaugh story, it starts way back when with a railway incident, right? This is a boat accident. And that was supposedly a railway accident where it's almost like a similar situation. You've kind of got a road going over a river, and under the road is a bridge, and a boat hits the road. Sorry, a boat hits the bridge, and somebody dies. Well, in the Murdaugh thing, with a great grandfather, a train was going over a railway track, and so the railway track's there, and the train's there, and a car went over the railway track. It's again like, boat, bridge, road for cars, railway track for a train, and two sort of forces collide, and somebody dies, and then somebody gets a shitload of money. You kind of had a situation where the great grandfather died in a horrible way, and then somebody else got a shitload of money as a result of that horrible misfortune, right? And then everything piled on top of that. The Murdaughs became very influential, and then here we are in 2019, February 24th, 2019, and now the opposite kind of happens. There's a big accident. Unfortunately, now the sort of train driver in this case is Paul Murdaugh. And now the whole thing has been the bread and butter of the Murdaugh thing for how many years, for how many decades, now becomes someone else's bread and butter. Because that is the bread and butter, one of the big ways that money is made in South Carolina, especially in the legal sense, right? And so you have this weird inversion of the Murdaugh story on top of itself, right? You have a personal injury thing that gets started by this family, and then it's almost like, is it justice? I don't know. It ends with the opposite taking place, where someone sues them, and then next thing, well, where are the murders now? I mean, this particular family. Well, half of them are murdered, the other one's in jail, and they're basically financially ruined. Does that mean they've covered full circle, right? So can you see, it's like the boat incident is almost like an inversion of the railway incident that happened so many years earlier. And so you kind of get the sense of, I guess, if you live by the sword, that kind of legal sword, you could also die by the same sword, right? And then this is the other thing that is so weird. Alex Murdaugh said that he wanted to commit suicide. Remember, after everything had happened, And after Maggie had been murdered and after Paul was murdered, then he said, well, I wanted to commit suicide so that Buster could inherit a lot of money. And so you kind of get this weird thing of Alex is saying, I want to commit suicide, but I want to make it look like, so I'm not really, someone's going to shoot me, but I want him to shoot me, so it's suicide. And then Buster's going to inherit money because I can't, if I do commit suicide, then no one can inherit because that's how it works. So I'm going to commit suicide, but I'm going to make it look like I was shot. And then Buster's going to inherit money. And then you think, but that's also an inversion of, wasn't the great grandfather doing the same thing, making it look like an accident, but it was actually suicide so that somebody else can inherit money. You literally have Alex Murdaugh saying exactly the same thing. What a mind job. Are you guys getting that sense of, I don't know, freaky indignation? That's it. Beverly Lawyer says, I like the movie The Lincoln Lawyer. So that's the next step of this thing that I'm trying to explain. And then the next one is, aren't we seeing southernness in action here? Right? In other words, when I say that, I'd say it with a bit of tongue in cheek, where you have this idea that it's family first, and you kind of get this idea when Paul is in trouble and he turns to his grandpappy and his father, and they're now going to rescue Paul. Isn't that just family looking after family? You know, isn't that what being Southern is? It's exactly this. Wouldn't anybody just look after their blood relative in the situation? And you kind of want to say, don't be naive. That is not what's going on here. It's not just it's trying to limit the potential financial damage to your own bank account. It's looking after yourself. It's not so much that, oh, I mean, if Alex Murdaugh really, really cared about Paul, Paul, you've just been in a boating accident. Are you okay, Paul? What happened to you? Let's help you out. Why would he be murdered later on? Was someone really thinking about Paul in the family sense, or was he really thinking about himself? And who was Paul thinking out? Who was Paul looking out for? So I don't know if you guys remember in the documentaries when the murders came onto the scene, there was this disbelief that they made no attempt to find her. So I mean, they come all the way out of the woods to help Paul, and Paul's there he is actually the least, seems to be the least injured of everybody. Okay, well, with your resources, do you want to try and look for Mallory? And you kind of got a sense that they just dismissed her. She's gone. Well, don't you want to check? She's gone. We've got more important things to deal with. And so you even got a sense, because I think Maggie said this. Paul's mother said, do you guys remember that she said, what if she's never found? Like, what if Mallory's body is never found? And you kind of wonder, well, wouldn't that have suited the murders? In other words, if her body's never found, then you can't necessarily prove that she was injured. Maybe she got out the boat and drowned. Then you could say, well, that's not our fault. That's nobody's fault. She may have just decided, I want to go for a swim. Of course, if you find her body and you find that she's been seriously injured, and that injury was caused by the boat hitting the pylon, hitting the bridge, and that in turn was caused by someone boating under the influence, and boating at speed under the influence, really, really recklessly, then someone is going to be liable. But if you can't find her body, and so do the murders actually help find the body of one of the people in this group, and then you say, is that what being Southern's about? Do you look after someone um, who's rich, and you look after a family member, or do you someone who's in difficulty or in trouble but who's poor? What do you do about them? How do you treat them? Is that what being Southern's all about? The rich look after each other, and the poor are treated like garbage. Is being Southern about your attitude to others? Is that you superior? Is being Southern that you push your weight around? And I'm certainly not saying if you Southern, this is what you like. I'm saying, is this to some extent what the Murdaughs were like, and to some extent they are part of the Southern culture, and the Southern culture is part of them, and this is one of the way it manifested. Because I think there's some ways that the Southern culture manifests in a wonderful way, where they truly are wonderful family values and good traditional values. But isn't there another way that the grandiosity manifests in a way that's very selfish and very conceited? Let's have a look at some of your comments. Yeah, you kill your own family when they become a liability. Janine says Southern old money families. Okay, so I now want to just take things kind of to another level. Um, oh, sorry. Who do you think was the star witness? Like, who was one of the best star witnesses at the Murdaugh trial? Someone who gave incredible insight into um, the key area of this, which is personal injury law, into the financial machinations. Who would you say was one of the star witnesses? Right, and again, bear in mind what we're talking about. We're talking about the Mallory Beach incident. So I guess it's who is the star witness in the Murdaugh trial related to the Mallory Beach incident? What would you say is the answer? Let's see what you guys say. Sharon says the law assistant admin lady. Um, Sarah says Connor. Okay, so the answer I'm looking for is Tinsel. Well, that's actually the answer, Mark Tinsley, right? Mark Tinsley was another. So your best, your star witness, your star, um, yeah, I guess your star witness was another personal injury lawyer who's telling you how another personal injury lawyer is trying to fandangle and wangle and weasel his way out of this particular situation. And I don't know if you remember what the judge said. He said, you know, when you've got a tiger like this guy on your tail, you're not going to just, you know what I mean? You're not going to, they're going to be repercussions. And, you know, I don't know what you could call the Murdaughs if I don't know if they were foxes or something, but you kind of have a lot of legal foxes running around in South Carolina trying to profit from loss type situations, accidents and injuries and things like that. And now you had a spectacular thing with Paul Murdaugh at the center of it, not just one person in the boat, but five other people in the boat. One person dies, quite a few people seriously injured, a hand seriously injured, a jaw seriously injured, um, and um, and you've now got a incredible personal injury lawyer in Mark Tinsley, who, as I said, the judge describes as a tiger. Once you've got this guy in your tail, um, sorry, this is the South. It's heaven for personal injury lawyers, and you're now on the receiving end of it. And no wonder he was such a great witness for what is actually going on with Alex Murdaugh. Do you follow what I'm saying? That it's kind of a situation where at last you're getting a personal injury lawyer on the stand telling you what personal injury law is all about, and how the finances are being. I mean, if there's anyone who would know how the efforts to try and not pay for personal injury, how to try to avoid that, it would be a personal injury lawyer. And so you've got one personal injury lawyer calling out another personal injury lawyer saying, this is how I think you're trying to hide not only your money, but also your accountability or your responsibility. You're trying to not, right? And then you look at things like, wow, Paul Murdaugh gets murdered, Maggie gets murdered, um, Connor gets told to say, I was riding the boat, um, and on and on and on. The Moselle property gets put on the market, but without being advertised. And Mark Tinsley is one of the guys saying, I'm concerned that you're going to try and sell this property and basically pay a mortgage debt to Palmetto Bank. But well, hold on a second. Before you do that, you owe me money, right? You owe money. I'm pursuing money from you because of a personal injury thing. You can't just take money and put it here, there, and everywhere. I have potentially a right to that money, and nobody knows that whole game better than a personal injury lawyer. And so you had a personal injury lawyer who was doing an incredible job outing the shenanigans, the mischief, the tricks, the trickery, the all of those little things of another personal injury lawyer. Yeah, hiding assets. Yeah. Well, I think Mark Tinsley's awesome unless he's coming after you. That they did two men bought Moselle, including I think one of them was like a neighbor. Um, so are you kind of getting a sense that although we know the story very well, we sort of kind of simplified it. It's sort of become slightly easier to wrap our heads around. Okay. And now I want to deal with two intertextualities. Is there anyone here that doesn't know what intertextuality means? So now you have a situation where not very far away, you have an accident or an incident, and a young guy, a teenager called Stephen Smith, a 19-year-old, dies next to the road. And it happens very close to Moselle. And there are, because of all of what is going on, because Paul gets murdered, because Maggie gets murdered, because possibly the housekeeper, something happened to her. Can you see that and there's also a personal injury thing around the housekeeper. Can you see how there's kind of this temptation to go, well, I'm asking, Stephen Smith died, possibly, what if a murder was involved in that in some way, maybe driving a vehicle, right? Couldn't I get millions out of that situation? In other words, isn't the Stephen Smith thing based on a personal injury psychology as well? I'm asking a question, or am I wrong about that? What do you guys think? Concert VIP says, enjoying these live streams, watched the last two late, but enjoyed them both. Off-topic questions. What is the brand of watch you're wearing? It's Garmin. It's quite cool. It's a Garmin Phoenix watch. Yeah. Well, I agree with you, but the question is, do you think that somebody thought there's a possible personal injury opportunity here? Just asking. Anyway, I'll leave that with you guys. I think if I show you this map, you'll get a sense of kind of what I'm talking about. So if you look at this map, there's Moselle, right? There's Crocketville, right? And where Stephen Smith died is around about there. Can you see it? Can you see it on screen? Let me show you again. There's the entire Moselle property. And all I'm doing is I'm just showing you how close it is, that's all. There's the Moselle property, there's Crocketville, right? And that is kind of where Stephen Smith died. And is someone not simply thinking, well, isn't there possible personal injury opportunity here? Because there are quite a few lawyers right now who are on the Stephen Smith case. Will B says 10 miles distance, I think. I actually think it's less than that. It might be even half of that. It's really not very far away. Let me confirm that. Moselle to Crocketville is 7.3 miles. So it's kind of yeah, it's less than 10 minutes, but it's basically between what you said and what I said. So not bad. We're definitely in the ballpark. Okay, so now I want to bring up the very last thing. I've already been here an hour and a half. I really want to talk about one more thing and then call it a night. I'm a little woozy because I had a little bit of alcohol. Just read some of your comments. Randy didn't contact Sandy. Randy contacted Stephen's father. Sarah says, but he wasn't on Moselle property. Absolutely right. I'm saying in the context, like the Stephen Smith incident happened, right? Then years passed, and you kind of had the situation of Paul Murdaugh was murdered, Maggie was murdered, and then there was the sense, well, was the housekeeper murdered as well? And then there was also a sense of, well, could Stephen Smith not have been murdered as well? But what I'm trying to get at is we can easily look at that and say, yeah, maybe he was murdered. But what I'm trying to say is think about it through the lens of personal injury. That wasn't someone thinking not so much like in terms of like true crime and criminal law, let's investigate this as a murder, but let's investigate this for a possible personal injury settlement. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Did you visit Redbeard when you were there? No. That's true. You even hear it in the advertising that when they take on personal injury, it doesn't cost anything. And if you win, then they charge you a percentage of what they win for you on your behalf. Okay. Okay, so the very last thing I want to talk about is the Nicola Bulley disappearance. And that is in the context of the Mallory Beach disappearance. Is there anyone here that doesn't know who Nicola Bulley is? Is there anyone here who doesn't know who Nicola Bulley is? I guess I'm going to assume if you don't say anything, then okay. So Granny says I've been watching that, and Mel says I know. Sarah says I know. So a couple of you say you don't know. So I'm just going to briefly tell you. In the United Kingdom, there was a how old was she again? 40, was she 49 years old? A 49-year-old, somewhere around there. British lady, I think she was a realtor or worked to some extent in the real estate industry, and she disappeared next to a stream. The she disappeared on the 27th of January 2023 while walking her dog. How old is Nicola Bulley? I can't quite remember. 45-year-old, okay. And her partner's 44 years old. So this is basically the case. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but this is the case, and this is Nicola Bulley. This is a picture of her. Oh, I thought there was a picture. Well, that's where she was walking her dog. And I'm sure there's a picture of Nicola Bulley somewhere here. Looks like there maybe isn't. Anyway, she disappeared next to the Wire River, and she was missing for how long? 3 weeks, wasn't it? And she disappeared into kind of a tidal river. Right? So she disappeared on the 27th of January, and her body was found on the 19th of February, which is around about 3 weeks later. And people couldn't really believe that it was just an accident, right? Terry says, I believe her autopsy is forthcoming this month. Okay. Now, why am I talking about Nicola Bulley, a British woman who fell into or ended up in a river? and it took about 3 weeks to find her. Why am I talking about that in a live stream that was also dealing with Mallory Beach? What's the intertextuality? Is there an intertextuality? What do you guys say? Why are we talking about the Nicola Bulley disappearance? Is it intertextual? Rob B says exactly that Murdaugh's thought that they could easily cover up the boat incident. Okay, that's not quite what I'm looking for. Sarah says water deaths. Christy says her body was hung on something underneath. Okay, I'm not quite seeing what I want to see. So Pussycat is coming quite close, says they found her a week later than Mallory. It's actually 2 weeks later. But it's a good answer. Yeah, so that's also quite a good. So this is the bottom line of what I want to say, is that in the Mallory Beach accident, they knew exactly when Mallory fell into the water, and they knew exactly where she fell into the water, and they knew exactly what the circumstances and the situation were, in terms of that Mallory was in the boat, and that Mallory was there, and that what the time was, and what I just mean is that it was quite clear that Mallory was in the river. I don't think anyone was thinking she was abducted, or that she caught a ride, or uh, you know, it was quite clear that we need to be looking in the river for Mallory Beach. Am I right? It's like, well, 5 people got out the water, but Mallory Beach didn't. So where should you be looking for Mallory? Should you be looking for her not in the water? Like everybody else came out the water, or maybe one person was like still in the boat, but even the boat had to come out the water, but Mallory's not in the boat. So where do you need to look for her, right? So what I'm trying to get at is Mallory. The circumstances of Mallory's disappearance are quite clear and obvious. This is where she disappeared. This is when she disappeared. To some extent, this is why she disappeared. And then this is the river. Here it is. Look for her. And it's kind of like, well, the tide is doing this, and this was the water level. And so, guys, find Mallory, right? Find Mallory. And well, I'm going to answer that in a moment. And so Mallory, it takes 7 days. It takes about a week to find Mallory. Sorry, I don't get it. Why is it so hard to find Mallory? Mallory's, we know exactly where and when. So why can you not find her? Just fly over the marshes. Just take your boat and search for her. And why is it going to be so difficult? Okay, so I don't know if I'm making my point. One person, the exact circumstances when she went into the water are sort of known, and it still takes a week to find her, and it's a tidal river. Another person, there's a little bit of mystery about what happened. Um, we think that the time frame is within 10 minutes, but we're not 100% sure. And it takes 3 weeks to find her. Is there a really big difference between the two? In other words, one person falls into water in that given situation, and it's not easy to find her. They take a week to find her, and it's very open. It's like you've seen those marshes. It's a very wide open space. How hard is it just to fly over there with a helicopter and say, well, there she is? And yet they couldn't find her. Why? Why was it so hard? Then somebody else also falls into or ends up in a river, and it takes 3 weeks to find her. And so my question simply is, it's either one or the other. Either we are not very good at looking inside water for a person, either we're not very good at trying to figure out the labyrinths and the sort of algorithm, I guess, of tides and how water moves and all the various dynamics, right? Or there must be some conspiracy where someone hid the body away and fill in the blank for whatever you think. So which one do you think it is? So do you think in the Mallory Beach case somebody hid Mallory away, or X, Y, or Z? Or do you think that they simply, because looking in water and it's sort of dark, muddy water, especially when the tide's very low, and the mud is very dark, is it easy to look in water for a person when you like above the water, right? And even if you below the water, is it easy to look for a person? That's the Mallory Beach case. Then you just take that simple thing. Well, it took a week to find Mallory Beach, even though everyone was looking for her, even though they knew exactly where to find her. And it seems like quite a simple thing. It's just like that area in front of the bridge. Just look for Mallory in that area in front of the bridge, right? And that's ultimately where they did find her, but it took a week to find her. And so you apply that same thing to Nicola Bulley. Where does that take you? Does that take you to, yes, it is hard looking for someone in water, or does it take you to, no, there must have been some foul play? And so that's just that's intertextuality, but it's a test of your ability to see to see critically in both of those separate instances, but then also to put those instances on top of one another. And when you do that, does that change the way you think about it? I just want to thank Don Spencer. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You understand the intertextuality, okay? Yeah, water is not as easy to negotiate as people assume. There you go. That is such a great comment. Really grateful for that. Thank you, Eddie B. Well, Wheel B says the tidal currents near to ocean are very different than inland tidal waters. Nevertheless, tidal waters are much harder to figure out than, let's say, a river with no tidal. It's not. You might say, oh, the water goes up and down, in and out. Well, where you're going to find someone is definitely not as simple as it seems. Because you might say, I think that person is now at that point. But if they're moving back and forth and you've already searched that point, right? You've searched that point, but then they move back to that point where you've already searched. You're not going to search there again. But maybe that they've moved back to that point now. You know, that's the argument. Chelsea says, not easy. Nature eventually revealed where they were. Lacey Peterson case as well. Thank you. Well said. So we are inclined to say, when we don't have an answer, that there must be some colorful explanation for it. You know, there must be some intriguing, exciting mystery behind it, some kind of conspiracy. And it's not necessarily the case. It could just simply be the case of human failure, that we're just not quite as smart as what we think we are. But that doesn't tend to be the first thought that we have. We tend to think the reason I can't find something is because someone is doing something very sneaky or whatever. No, maybe it's because you're not looking hard enough, right? That's another possibility. In the Murdaugh case, and I was quite excited about doing this episode because it was something that I felt really strongly. One of the biggest insights is, in a way, the most boring insight of all, which is we're dealing with a personal injury case where the personal injury monster basically comes around and bites the personal injury lawyer kind of in the bum, right? That is the kind of the big key insight. But I think if you don't go to the South like I've gone to the South, and you don't understand um, the incredible industry that personal injury law is in the South, and you are a little bit dismissive of the fact that um, of the personal injury aspect in this case, then you're not going to see how Alex Murdaugh himself would have recognized when the Paul Murdaugh thing happened, when the boat incident happened. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I've been able to pursue these people and these insurance companies. I've been able to get millions in this situation that, well, now all of that's coming to me. Now the crows are coming home to roost. Who is going to appreciate the full shitstorm, the full clusterfuck of that? It's not just the clusterfuck of the sort of thing of um, someone's going to come after me for my money, but it's also in the process of that. What about all these other shenanigans I've been doing that are probably going to be exposed because that's what personal injury lawyers do? Um, Personal injury, I need you to give me money. I need to find out how much money you have, and I need you to hand over, right? And so he knows that is coming his way. And isn't that giving you a sense of Alex Murdaugh in a way that you've never had before? That's the thing that I've been trying to convey to you guys, right? Doesn't that really make all of this make sense in a way that actually hasn't to this extent before? Anyone had like a kind of a light bulb moment during this live where you're like, wow, ping, yeah, I see that. I see what you're saying. It is a huge racket, yeah. That's true. Police made a wellness check on Nicola Bulley. So apparently there is going to be some kind of, I think, inquest report on Nicola Bulley, and we'll see what that says. But I mean, does it sound like we've had any any sort of news from the police saying, guys, the murderer's out there, this is what he looks like, or we've got some evidence? Has there been anything like that? So if that's not the case, what are we dealing with? Alex would know. Okay. Chelsea says yes, a totally new perspective. So I mean, um, I feel like it is a very good, clear, incisive way of looking at it. But someone else might say, uh, I've actually been thinking it all along. It's not really such a big deal. But I think then maybe you're from the South. If you're not from the South, then I think that's why I say the cultural fabric's so important. You're not from the South, I think you go to the South as I have, then you really appreciate cheap. It's so that thing that I haven't really been seeing, I do see it now. I see it now. And so I just hope that that is something that I've helped convey to you guys by me going there, that it's made that aspect clearer to you. So in other words, the Mallory Beach incident is actually very important and fundamental to the whole Murdaugh case. But it's in two dimensions. The one dimension is in and of itself. The other dimension is because of the personal injury element recognized by personal injury lawyer. A personal injury lawyer is recognizing the personal injury shitstorm he's facing, in a haven for personal injury lawsuits, in a legally friendly place to personal injury, um, what's the word? But personal injury litigation. South Carolina is extremely friendly towards personal injury litigation in ways that other states in America simply aren't. And if you are pursuing that and you're a lawyer, great. But if you're on the receiving end of that, then it's quite terrifying. You can be financially ruined. You could lose millions. That's really the bottom line here. Okay. That sounds good, Sarah. Okay, guys. Beverly Lawyer says, I'm thinking. That's exactly the kind of response I was looking for. Okay, guys, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to get going. Well, get to bed. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm sorry about the delay. I just did have a really good dinner with Stephanie L. Stephanie, are you still here, or have you been ASMR'd? Thanks, Lainey. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot, guys, for your patience. I know it was about an hour and a half late, but I was having a pretty good dinner, so thanks a lot for that. Yeah, no, today wasn't my best day in New York, but it certainly was a good night. So tomorrow is, well, it's already tomorrow here. It's Sunday today. Effectively, my last full day in America and in New York today. Tomorrow, which is Monday, will be almost a full day. I leave tomorrow night for London and then South Africa. So so there are a couple of things I want to do between now and then, and I must make up my mind what they are. What do I want to do in my last 2 days? So I'll try and figure it out. I might be spending some of that time with one of the supporters of this channel, Stephanie. So we'll see. I think Stephanie is already in Snoozland. I do get to see Timmy soon. By the way, when I was eating with Stephanie in like I think it's a Moroccan restaurant. Yeah, Moroccan. They had a little dog there called Ralph under the table, and it just kind of made me remember I would always take Timmy to a particular restaurant as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Um, Wendy says, I'm kind of sad you leaving back home. I should hope so. I should think so. I do have more stories to share with more footage that I haven't actually gotten to yet. And hopefully I'll be able to do that at some point. I will do a video of my reunion. I will do that. Christy says, thanks for the chat. It's very enlightening. Do you expect some attitude from Timmy? I expect him to bark with frantic joy and excitement. I hope. We'll see. I hope he's going to be overjoyed. Anyway, we're on the 2-hour mark, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the support. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for your attention. I hope you have a good sleep, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll try and take some more photos of the sights and sounds of New York, and there is a Van Gogh exhibition, the Cypresses, and I might try and get to that. If you guys are interested in my photography, I took some really nice photos of the Statue of Liberty just the other day. Well, check out my Instagram. Okay, thanks a lot, Sleuth and Sandals. Thanks everyone for being here. Sleep well, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.